we're going to start off with Ann Dunn from Oakland Animal Services to give us an update on all things Oakland. So Ann, the floor is yours.
Great. Hi, everybody. I'm going to share my screen, so bear with me. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here and to share what we're doing in Oakland. I think I know most of you, but since I don't know all of you, just a little bit about me, about us. So I started as the director of OAS just about 6 months ago. So I was here about 3 weeks before shelter in place. And so it feels like I've been here forever, but it's a lot of change. As me being a new director, there's also a new assistant director, and OAS isn't a place that has really a foundation for this kind of innovation. So it's exciting that we're doing this, but it's a lot. And as Bobby can share, I mean, once we started getting into this, I actually had a moment of panic and said, I don't think we're ready for this. And in part because comparing ourselves to all the other amazing organizations that are part of HASS. So I feel like we are going to be that shelter that can show, like, if Oakland can do it, anybody can, because our starting place is really just at the very beginning. So, and just with that, we're a very, very average municipal shelter. Our budget's about $5.2 million. Our intake is under 6,000. Our live release rate is 87%. Most of our animals leave via transfer. Our adoptions are 22%, and our return to owner is just 10%. One of the things that I'm really focusing on is using the city's resources as effectively as we can. So I'm really excited about the possibility of shifting from a really reactionary to, more preventive care. So the boxes in blue represent positions that I intend to keep as they are. Our management is really just me, the director, and the assistant director at this point. This orange shelter manager, this position, the person who's in that has been on leave for over a year, and I anticipate this position becoming vacant very soon, actually, and my intention is to shift that to become a second vet, so we can have 2 full-time vets, and that will give us the ability to have one person who's primarily focused on the shelter, and then somebody who's primarily focused on community programming. Same thing with the animal care attendants. I mean, this budget is predicated on a shelter that's operating at full capacity, and that's certainly what has been the experience of OAS. Usually every cage is full. So our hope is that, with the intake prevention programs and other things that we're focusing on, that we will have far fewer animals in the shelter at any given time, giving us the opportunity to reduce this number. And instead of having so many animal care attendants, we can shift those over to RVTs or vet assistants that would then support, again, that community programming. And the public service representatives are our intake specialists. And one of the things that I inherited was a shelter that was operating, we are open to the public only 20 hours per week. Answer the phones only 10 hours per week. And so one of the things that I'm really focusing on is shifting this so that we have more, we've already doubled the number of hours. So we're open 40 hours. We answer our phones 40 hours per week, but wanting to increase that even further so that people can get a hold of us and get support via the phone so that they don't have to come down here, so that we can really do more to keep animals out of the shelter. We have a great Friends of organization, and even before HASS, we were talking about, and I used to run a nonprofit cat rescue organization. So I should say I started as a volunteer here in 2008, and then I started a nonprofit cat rescue organization, Cat Town. And so I work really closely already with the Friends of organization. And so over the last couple of years, we had been talking about trying to do something via Pets for Life. So they're really excited about HASS and really on board with supporting the progressive changes that the shelter is making. So I feel like there's just all kinds of opportunity. So what this represents is the support that we're getting from the Friends of organization, and the blue is really the only program that we had outside of our field services, so just a traditional kitten foster program. There was a working, or there has been, I should say, a working cat program. It was just volunteer run. And so one of the changes since I started in February was to create a part-time position so that we now have somebody focused on community cats. So return to field, which is relatively new for OAS, and a relocation program. And then these orange boxes all represent new programs since I started. So we now have a dog foster program for the first time, and this is really focusing on hard to place dogs, so mainly for large dogs. And in addition to getting the dogs into foster homes, is doing behavioral support, supporting the fosters so that these dogs can really thrive. We've hired a full-time adoption and outreach coordinator. So this person is really revamping our entire adoption process to make it more accessible, to focus more on matchmaking, to focus more on hard-to-place animals, and post-adoption support. They've helped us hire a part-time veterinarian, and we just brought on a HASS coordinator. So we have now a full-time person that's helping with developing and implementing programs. So that, of course, is very exciting. So shelter intake prevention, of course, that's a huge component of what we're focusing on right now. The first piece is field services. And so I should say, you know, as I mentioned, I'm a new director, and this is a lot of change for the organization. So one of the things I first wanted to do before making the commitment to HASS was to make sure the staff was on board. And one of the big pieces was the animal control division, because what we're talking about is such a great departure from how the shelter has operated. So one of my questions for our staff was, you know, recognizing that our model has been very punitive, and really the only tool that they've had is seizure. And so how do they feel about the opportunity to actually help people instead? And they're just so excited. And so it's been such an easy shift to say to people that now they have not been given a lot of autonomy previously. And so to say, you know, we're really looking to you to assess a situation, and where you see an opportunity to help, where you think you can keep an animal in a loving home, let's make that happen. And so they're absolutely thrilled, and doing all kinds of good things. The other piece is that we have a great support from the city government. So there's a lot of support for moving in this direction. And so including, we're getting a ton of support from the city administrator's office. So really combing through our municipal code to find where we have maximum flexibility, and then also areas where we need to make some changes, including our fee structure and other areas where we know there are barriers to people keeping their animals. So, you know, we're relying on the Front Street model. We're so excited about having the opportunity, working closely with Bobby and Gina, just really to copy their good work. And so, you know, looking at what our starting point is, stray lost animal intake numbers, excluding kittens, our intake for that category is 60%. And our return to owner is only 10%. So there really has never been any kind of culture around return to owner. So looking at best practices, you know, our focus now is trying to get that return to owner closer to 40%. And again, modeling over on Front Street, what we're looking at is that return to owner first. So before an animal is even intaked, see, are we able to connect them with their guardian, get them back home before we put them in a cage. We just launched a Find Your Foster program, so we now have 5 animals that are in foster homes with the people who found them, and we're giving them tools to try to help find that original home. So the goal, of course, is getting those animals home rather than rehomed. We're now using Nextdoor. We just signed up with Finding Rover. And one of the things that we're working toward are being able to provide free microchips and collars and tags, so that we're really, you know, focusing on prevention and getting people thinking about what they would do if their animals were lost, And one of our hopes is that we'll be able to hire a full-time person that's focused on lost and found and other shelter intake programs. We just signed up for home to home, so we just launched this. We now have 7 people that are using this. This just went live last week, so we're really excited about this. And our primary goal here is just simply to provide the platform so that people can, you know, take this upon themselves and rehome their animals, but being available if people feel like they need additional support, reassurance, help with, you know, looking at their bios, whatever it might be. So we don't feel like we need to be in the middle of these transactions, but we do want to be available for support if people feel like they need that. And then our other big thing that we're working on right now is we just got a grant from a family foundation to launch a pilot program. So the city has a huge and growing population of people who are unsheltered, living in our streets. And they also have a very compassionate approach. And so they have a department focused on homelessness, and they have 12 city-supported low-barrier housing sites across the city. And so we're collaborating with the city department and then also the service providers to provide veterinary clinics at the sites. And again, it's a pilot, so what we're going to try to figure out is how we best structure this. But what we're thinking about, we're going to do our first one in November, and we are going to provide the clinic on a Monday, provide whatever services that we can provide on site, and then identify the animals that need more intensive care, maybe more diagnostic surgery, whatever, and then using the animal control officers as transport and scheduling appointments at the shelter, providing the services at the shelter, whatever recovery, and then and bringing those animals back home. And then the animal control officers will follow up and provide case management to make sure that if there's ongoing care that's needed, that we can provide that. Our hope is that this is going to be a bigger program, and we're just going to launch it and see how that goes. So that is us so far, which is, again, it's I feel like it's peanuts compared to what a lot of the other organizations are doing, but it's a lot of change for Oakland. So I just want to say how excited I am to be a part of this, and how grateful I am for all of the support that we're getting. I mean, it just feels like it's not just the hands-on support and all of the good ideas and all of the collaboration, but it's the momentum that's created by the other organizations and by HASS that I feel like absent that, we would not be moving as quickly as we are. So we're just really thrilled to be doing this. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.